All right, welcome back everybody. I was going to do a little video here on starter solenoids or the starter relay, and a lot of these old Cub Cadets, and this is common with a lot of tractors, you'll go ahead, you'll turn the key and you won't be able to start it. But you can take a screwdriver and if you jump the solenoid, it'll fire right up. Now there could be a lot of reasons why the tractor wouldn't start, and I've already tested this one and the solenoid's good, so I'm going to do a separate video on this tractor showing you how to troubleshoot whether it's a seat switch, a PTO switch, it might be stuck, that kind of thing. But I'm not going to focus on that today. We'll go through the whole electrical system on here and I'll show you some tips and tricks to try to diagnose why your tractor's not starting. Like I said, this is a common problem on all brands of tractors, and a lot of times people will go ahead and the first thing they do is replace the starter solenoid, and a lot of times that's not the case, and that wasn't the case with this tractor here. So today I'm going to focus on the solenoid and show you guys real easy how to check to see if it's the solenoid that's bad, and if you pull it out of the tractor, how to test it. All right, so starter solenoid on a Cub Cadet generally is always right underneath the seat here, especially on an 82 series. They could vary on different models, but on all my 82 series, they're back here. So this would be hooked to the positive end of the battery. This would be hooked to the negative. And you can see the positives here, and then this would go to the starter. So when you hit the switch on the key, it activates this. This wire here activates, that turns your solenoid on. Now, a lot of times, this is what you have to do. You pull this boot off to expose that nut on your solenoid, and you'd have to take a screwdriver and arc these together. And like I said, I got a few tractors that I have to do this on because I haven't got the wiring problem figured out, and it would start. So that usually tells you the solenoid. Easiest way to do this would be to have your test light, and I would probably put this on the negative ground of the battery, but since there's not a battery in here, we'll pretend that we just grounded this to the chassis somewhere. You hold your test light right to that screw, and then if you can reach over and hit the key or have someone help you, if you're getting power to this light, to this terminal, then your starter solenoid's probably bad. If you're not getting any power to there, which I'm not on this one, then you have a wiring issue somewhere else. It could be in the ignition switch itself. It could be a faulty PTO switch. It could be like a seat switch foot pedal like this one here. Someone wired that one up. So these old tractors, this stuff happens. It's common. And on this one, it's not the solenoid. There's going to be more video on that to come, like I said. All right, so on a Cub Cadet, the starter solenoid on this model is easy to get to. Depending on what tractor you have, it might be different, but easy way to test this also would be take a lead, connect it right to the positive post of your battery. The ignition switch doesn't need to be on unless you were trying to start the tractor doing this. Otherwise, just for testing purposes, you take the other end of your lead. Be careful not to hit anything on the chassis because it will ground out and arc. And right there's the little screw where your ignition switch would go into. And there you go. So you can tell that the solenoid's good. Now, if you wanted to remove the solenoid and test it, we'll go over here to the table and I'll show you how to do that. All right, so if you remove the starter solenoid, this is how it would attach to the tractor. This acts as the ground when it's bolted to the chassis. You got two leads here. This is for your battery cable. This comes directly, the top one directly to the battery, and then the wire below here, this is what would go to your starter. Now this little tiny wire, this goes to the ignition system. So when you click the ignition switch to start, it activates the solenoid and completes the circuit to the starter. Now you might be wondering why you would need a starter solenoid or anything. Think of it as a switch with little tiny wires and contacts. A starter, or say something larger like an air compressor, when you kick it on, you know how it has a lot of power draw. By kicking it on, you'd get that arc with them little wires, and an ignition switch that's too small to handle it, you would either burn them out, or worst case, you would like arc them and weld them together. So this solenoid's larger, and all the wire does from the key switch is just activates this as a giant switch, and it clicks it on and lets the power go to the starter. Now these do go bad. All right, easiest way to test this would be take one of your leads, connect it to the negative post of your battery. The negative post to the solenoid there, just to ground it out. Take a positive lead to the positive side of the battery, and what I'm gonna do is you need actually 2 positive leads. So I'm going to clamp this wire here, because like I said, my other leads are up there. We'll take the first positive and put it to the top post. Take your test light, connect this to the negative side of the battery. You'll have power here, because that's where your power is coming in. And you'll notice you won't have power here, and you're not going to have power here. So you're not going to have power here, because this has to complete the circuit. So when you take this next positive lead and touch this, this should activate the solenoid and let power go through. And you should be able to hear the click on this. So all that's doing is activating that solenoid to open, and that's letting the power go to the starter, and when you let off on the key, it quits power to it. So if you take it out of the tractor, that's an easy way to determine if the solenoid is good, which this one is. So that's an easy way to troubleshoot. Now, like I said, like I showed you before, the easiest way is it in the tractor to touch on that right there. And if you're getting power to there, then it's probably your solenoid, but you can pull it out and test it anyway. All right, so that's it for this video. That's on the starter solenoid. When I get a few more days free here to start working on the Super Cub, I'll be sure to do a video to show you guys how to diagnose wiring issues. Say it's not your relay, it could be an ignition. I've had this problem. I've had to jump the solenoid on this one because it's not working. The 682 I got, they'd replaced the solenoid. They thought it was an ignition switch and it's not. So this will save you a lot of time on buying parts and things like that. If you like these kind of videos, go ahead and subscribe. I'll keep trying to do these. As always, thanks for watching.